Okay, and welcome to June 23rd StatsCan report. I'm going to try breeze through some stuff quickly here, some of the numbers just to get into some other details. Back on the internet, put together a little PowerPoint presentation here just to go through some stuff and try do some explaining. Sometimes it's tough to explain what StatsCan, where they come up with their numbers and the questions. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. If you're following my little mouse here, down in the bottom you'll have a chat box. If you want, you can click in there and you can either send it to the entire audience. You can only see your name and my name likely on the screen, but there is others. You can send it to the entire audience, or you can also just send it to me. So basically, if you've got any questions, you can type it in. I haven't quite figured out that if you do have a headset and microphone, if you can talk or not. I think you can if you are phoning in. You may be able to ask questions, but usually when I start the presentation, it's everybody's muted but myself. So anyways, let's get into the report. Like I said, it is today we're just going to look at the seeded acreage report. We're going to go through what the trade thought the numbers were, the pre-report numbers. And this was released yesterday, basically what the trade was thinking. They thought canola was going to come in at 19.2 roughly million acres, or sorry, I should say 18.2 on the high end. 19.2 was our March estimate, and you see what was estimated last year, back in 2010 for that growing season. That actually didn't get in the ground, although StatsCan never did revise their numbers. You see, another one I want to look at too is barley. They were predicting about 1 million more acres. The trade knew that was going to be a little bit lower, and then we see what it was last year at 6.9. And now we're going to get right into the report, and I'm going to bore you with some more numbers. This is in Canada, and of course it's million acres. And what we're looking at here is wheat acres came in. The big thing to note is, I'm going to try, I get my highlighter out. Big thing to note is in March they're planning on just about 25 million acres a week going in the ground. This June report says there's 23.5. Now, the key to this report is it was only from May 25th to June 3rd, and I'll get into that later as to the question that was asked and how you would answer it if you were a farmer. Barley was a big number. As you saw in the last slide, they're anticipating probably 7.5 million. March it was 7.8. What actually came in this morning's report was 7.1. Loss due to drought and likely silage. We could see another 500,000 to 800,000 coming off of this number, which would put it well below last year's planted acres for barley, which I've been telling everybody was going to be the case. I just see it in my own numbers that barley's been dwindling, and I think with this number you're going to see RAR get pretty aggressive with some of their pricing, trying to lock up some grain as well. Oats we're not going to get into too much. Flaxseed, this number is likely going to come in even lower than what the 1.1 was last year. They said there was 900,000. That was probably down closer to what actually got planted, was 500,000 acres, and I anticipate this year's number is going to be the same. You see corn up slightly, but from 2007, corn's was on a decline and really is stabilized around 3 million acres. That's, of course, growing mostly in southern Manitoba and Ontario, a good chunk of those acres. Beans have another increase, of course, just like every other oil seed. And now we get to the big one, canola. You can see I've bolded it. and made it nice and red. Here's the big number that the trade is going to be taking into account probably the first few hours of trade today. 19.8 million acres. On the previous slide you saw the trade was thinking 18.2 is going to be on the high end. But that, like I said, everybody's going to be baffled by this report. I think there's going to be a panic sell early on in the day. Could even go most of the day. And then basically everything is going to probably stabilize and then realize that there's no way 19.8 million acres even had a chance to get in the ground this spring. Never mind actually was seeded. Basically overall report, bearish for canola, wheat, flax, and oats, but supportive for barley. Now, when we're doing cost of productions, that could be a good thing. We'll be looking, you'll see on my conclusion part of the presentation at what to do with our barley from here on out. We're going to get into the percentages by the province, and then you'll see where I'm coming from with not trusting any of these numbers whatsoever. Basically, you see, out of all the increase in the canola acres, 30% of the increase was going to come in Saskatchewan. Of course, why wouldn't you when you had a lot of acres that were droughted out last year, and you think that you've got chem fallow or summer fallow that you can put canola into. Alberta was going to account for 12.6% of the increase. That's a huge number considering we put in 5 million acres, so that's easily about another 5 to 550,000 acres Alberta got in, and we got it in. That's a number that isn't false. And really, if you take that number, tack it on to last year, we're probably looking at about 17.3 million acres extra. Even if you were to give Saskatchewan the benefit of the doubt and they got 5% more acres of canola in than this 30, and tack that on to the number, tops we're looking at probably about 7.5 to 7.8 million acres. Manitoba, obviously the farmers were more honest there. They knew they weren't going to get canola in the ground, and their increase was only 4.2% higher than last year. I'm just going to point out a few facts as to why I'm not sold on this report. The unfortunate part is the next report that will have any meaning as far as Canadian trade won't be till August 24th. So now we're at the whim of the growing season and what's going on in the world and North American market. This obviously was June 19th, April 1st to June 19th map, and oops, sorry. What this is going to show us is green is basically 115 to 150% of normal rainfall precipitation. This light greeny color is basically the 80 to 115. So basically, if you took this green and this light green here, and you see how the big swath goes through Alberta and then into Saskatchewan, we're at least at 85 to potentially 150% of our normal precipitation. The big numbers is once you get into this gray and the blue over in this area, we're 150 to 200%. And you see where that starts. I mean, it starts basically right at the mountains, cuts down through Calgary, and anybody who's driven through Calgary in the last month, they know what it's like. Down through Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, all the way through Maple Creek, Swift Current. And if you follow number 1 highway, it goes right like this. It's basically right along number 1 highway, back up into the Yorkton area. And basically the Manitoba crop area is right in this point, Swan River, down south. Basically, if you cut Manitoba like this, that's where they grow their crop. So you see most of Manitoba is 150% to 200% or more precipitation, and that's where all the flooding occurs. No coincidence that basically if you follow this line right here across Canada or Western Canada, that's where the majority of the durum acres. We'll get into durum a little bit, not that it matters to any of you, but just to show you how the numbers are so skewed on this report. And if you get into basically this belt from #1 highway north. That's where the canola acres go in the ground. Here's the two big crushing plants in Saskatchewan, and you see what they're looking at, trying to basically, they pull most of their canola out of this area from Dauphin, Swan River, over to the Wynyard and south to Malville area. That's where they're going to be pulling their canola from, and lots of it didn't get in the ground. That I know for a fact. And this I just wanted to show, and I had this updated on the website, I know back in May 23rd, I think it was. But I just wanted to show this again because this is where the seeding progress was as of May 23rd when the survey was taken. And you saw the area I was just pointing out in Saskatchewan. They were only 28% seeded in that area. Down in the south, they were struggling anywhere from 5% to basically a third seeded. And since that time frame, that's why the trade is going to panic sell today. And then they're going to realize, well, what was the weather like after the survey or when the survey was taken? And then they're going to see what the weather is like, and they know that that ground didn't go into canola, or likely didn't go into anything. So this is really an important slide because it shows what the weather was like, what the seeding progress was like at the time of, if you go back to this moisture map, and basically in the week the survey was taken, the week to 10 days, they had nothing but rain. So anything that was 150 to 200% moisture, they weren't seeding anything. Conclusion part, canola, obviously it's bearish, but it'll be quickly discounted. I said already the numbers are unrealistic, but again, it's like tossing a coin in the air and trying to bet on which side it's going to land on. Most of the trade's going to be flipping a coin right now. That's why I say it's going to be panic selling today, possibly tomorrow. And then it's going to go back to what's happening in the growing season and what's happening in the world soybean and oilseed market. Wheat, durum is right now basically about $3 a bushel higher than spring wheat. That's likely going to increase to about $8 to $10 a bushel higher. Why you say? Because if you look back at what I just showed you on the moisture map, durum needs to be in the ground in Saskatchewan and Alberta by likely May 15th. That didn't happen. Guys were still thinking they were going to seed it, and the North American durum problem is huge. Only about 25% of the durum got in the ground. Malt, $7 cash plus will likely be the next target we'll look at. Maltsters were scrambling before in May. Obviously, when they triggered the 650 cash plus contracts, they were scrambling due to terrible seeding conditions and the what ifs. Now, when they get a little bit more of a realistic number as to the malt that went in the ground, they know the acres aren't going up from here. It's likely going down. They are basically going to get very jitterish, and if they can sell it in the world market, they'll likely be triggering the cash plus contracts. So again, canola is bearish, but likely will be discounted very quickly. Wheat, durum's going to pop over spring wheat for huge premiums, and the malt is going to be the big one that I think is going to be the mover and shaker.